reaching the lost.
I'm just here to tell you that God's in the process right now of establishing some bridges.
Teaching the found.
We've got to be able to get a generation from one side over into the next.
With passion.
There is power. Power in the name.
And purpose.
I just had to make up my mind a long time ago that I'm going to do this come hell or high water.
Power for Living with Bishop Dale C. Bronner.
Ezekiel chapter 1. Remember that we're looking at this particular creature here in the 5th verse. Also from within it came the likeness of 4 living creatures, and this was their appearance, that they had the likeness of a man. And each one had 4 faces, and each one had 4 wings, and their legs were straight, and the soles of their feet were like the soles of calves' feet, and they sparkled like the color of burnished bronze, and the hands of a man were under their wings on their 4 sides, and each of the 4 had faces and wings. And their wings touched one another, and the creatures did not turn when they went, but each one went straight forward. As for the likeness of their faces, each had the face of a man. Each of the 4 had the face of a lion on the right side, and each of the 4 had the face of an ox on the left side, and each of the 4 had the face of an eagle. And this one we focus in on the face of the eagle. On the face of the eagle. Remember, all of these are talking about a different facet of mankind. You're not just unilateral, but we are multifaceted. Multifaceted is sort of like multi-faced. We have many faces. You've got a happy face and a sad face and a serious face and, the I love you face and all of that kind of face, and I think I'm cute face. You have a wide variety of faces. And notice it talks about these 4. One is the face of a man, speaking of our humanity. We are a mixture of both dust and divinity. This speaks of the humanity of man. And then we talked about the face of the lion. The lion is the king of the field. Man rules the world because he's man. And the lion rules the jungle. The ox speaks of work, our work. And the ox rules the field, strong as an ox. And then the eagle rules the air. He's sort of like the king of the air as a bird. And you have this dimension of yourself that has eagle qualities. And so I want you to focus in on that and realize that, in fact, the Bible talks about it in Proverbs chapter 30. It mentions that there are three things which are too wonderful for me, yea, 4 which I know not. And then it talks about the way of the eagle in the air, the way of the eagle in the air, the way of the serpent upon the rock, the way of the ship in the midst of the sea, and the way of a man with a maid. And each of them is talking about how there is a mysterious nature in terms of their transportation or movement. The way that an eagle is able to glide in the air without a whole lot of flapping. You don't have to do a whole lot of flapping when you're an eagle. They've got powerful wings. Their wings are so powerful that they can swoop down and snatch a fish out of the water with their powerful talons and drag it away to their nest and fly it up there. They can pick up rabbits and fly them back to their nest, and small rodents and things of that nature. They are powerful with their powerful talons that have a death grip on them, and they will take them. And here's the thing that we have to learn here. You have to learn something from each of these different faces. You learn some things. We learn boldness from the lion. That there are certain times that you should not just be a meek little lamb and allow people to walk over you. You need to rise up with the boldness of a lion. The Bible says that the righteous are as bold as a lion. And so when you see things that are not right, there needs to rise up in you righteous indignation. This is not just evil that comes because somebody is irritated. This is a righteous indignation that is based upon godly principles, upon doing things the right way, having a God conviction, fighting for the cause of God. This is not selfish. This is for the establishment of His kingdom. We become indignant in a holy way because we want to see God's way brought in the earth, and we see people when they begin to usurp the order of God or disrespect His order, and we become indignant in a holy fashion because we are passionate for the cause of God in the earth. That's what a lion does. Things don't just happen. And so that's why we have the face of an ox, because the ox speaks of our work, and we have to work like an ox in the field. And remember, we talked about how it was the pattern of Jesus. He said, come and you who are weary and heavy laden, and I'll give you rest. Now, the rest of the Lord is never inactivity. It is always a change of activity. Have you ever gone on vacation to rest, and when you came back, you felt like you needed another vacation? Because you don't just lay in the bed the whole time that you're on vacation. It is not inactivity. It is a change of activities. So you might go out to the beach, you might go sightseeing, you might do a wide variety of things, and you have done so many activities while you were on vacation that when you get back, you have to have another vacation. So it is not inactivity, it is a change of activity. And so I want you to notice some things very specially about the eagle. Notice these 3 or 4 things that are mysterious. The writer is saying in Proverbs, the way of an eagle in the air. Like, I don't understand how they are able to move about the way that they do, so effortlessly in the air. And then the way of a serpent upon the rock. You know how serpents, they don't look like they really walk. They look like they just glide. And when you really see them really moving, it almost is as though they are levitating a little bit and flying over the ground. That's a mysterious thing, to figure out how they sort of just slither along. You don't just see them with any legs walking, but yet they can still move. It's very, very interesting how they move. And then it talks about the way of a ship in the midst of the sea. How does it navigate itself? And we have to learn sometimes that when we really want to get to where we want to go, it's not about trying to row so hard in our own flesh. It's about learning how to set your sail. And then the winds of God will blow you in the direction that you need to go. Touch your neighbor, says, set your sail. And then it talks about the way of a man with a maid. A maid this is not the kind of person who comes and cleans up your house. Wouldn't that be nice? But this is with a young woman. The young unmarried woman is considered a maid. And so it's talking about that I don't understand that, how men are still able to have their way with a maid, and women are still falling for the same old tricks. It is absolutely amazing. Man starts whispering sweet nothings to the woman, and she's just ready to give everything up and get married, and believes everything, just puts her whole life, hook, line, and sinker. She takes the whole thing. And so he's like, I don't understand these things. I don't understand how the eagle navigates its way in the air, and I don't understand how the serpent navigates its way on the rock, and I don't understand how the ship navigates its way in the sea, and I don't understand how a man navigates his way into the heart and mind and emotions of a young unmarried woman who's desperate to be married. He said, I just can't figure out those 4 things. Can't figure them out. So it's very interesting. There's something here interesting about the way of an eagle, and so that's what we want to actually look at in terms of the eagle. And so it's interesting how probably the 2 most arresting characteristics of the eagle. The eagle is known for his vision, and the eagle is known for its powerful wings, the massive expanse of their wings, which give them an ability to catch gusts of air and be lifted high above circumstances of life. Now, we have to be able to learn how to do that as an eagle. You know a very familiar passage of scripture in Isaiah chapter 40. Isaiah chapter 40 and verse Verse 29, I like this. I want to back up to this one. We always rush to the other part. We'll get to that. But in Isaiah chapter 40, verse 29, notice this mentions that he gives power to the weak. He gives power to the weak. Did you know that when we are weak, then is he strong? It requires weakness. Weakness is a prerequisite to qualify for God's strength in your life. You do not ever earn strength from God. You can only qualify for his strength. Are you listening? You don't earn food stamps. You don't earn welfare. You have to be financially weak enough to qualify. Are you listening? So if you're going to get the strength of God in your life, you've got to be so weak. Because when we are weak, then is he strong. God is strong only when we are weak. And so notice, he gives power to the who? To the weak, not to the strong, but he gives power to the weak. The people who think that they're already strong, walking around doing it in their own strength, God says, okay, I'll just let them go and wear themselves out. I'll let them keep running their head up against the wall, trying to work it out, get it open themselves. I'm going to stand back until they weary themselves, until they have to come and ask me for help, until they wear out, and then I'll let them come and deal with me. Notice, he gives power to the weak, and to those who have no might, he increases strength. Now notice, God does not increase your strength until you have given out. That's when renewal kicks in. You don't fill your car up when you've already got 3/4 of a tank, do you? No. You wait until this thing is about to run out. And then you renew it. It's when it expires. If you got a subscription, you don't renew the subscription until the old one has expired. You don't renew your driver's license until the old ones are expired or about to expire. So it's right when you're just about to give out that you actually then tap into renewal. If you've ever been in a position where you need the renewal, God's going to wait until you get down to a certain level before he brings renewal into your life. So notice, he gives power to the weak, and to those who have no might, he increases strength. Even the youth shall faint and be weary. You always have heard that the young are strong and old know the way. But notice he says here that even the youths shall faint and be weary, and the young men shall utterly fall. I see a lot of that happening. But those who wait on the Lord shall renew their strength. Notice, they shall mount up with wings of a turkey, the wings of a buzzard, the wings of a pigeon. Have you ever noticed that if you see a pigeon downtown, and if you happen to scare it, now they can fly and they will fly, but they don't fly far. And if you ever sort of scare them off, they'll actually, if you watch them, they will take off and they'll fly and they'll circle around and come back to the same place, the same vicinity where they were. You try to encourage them to move and they end up flying off and coming back to the same place where they were. Now, when you understand the way of an eagle, and remember, we are supposed to mount up with wings like an eagle. An eagle you will never see an eagle just flapping and flapping and flapping, flapping and flapping, flapping and flapping, trying to get off the ground. You'll never see that with an eagle. An eagle will flap 2 or 3 good times, and he catches a warm column of air, and he'll do 360-degree turns, and he rises, he sets his wings in this warm column of air. I'd love to call it a warm column of prayer. You have to learn how to set your wings. Be still and know that he is God. And you have set yourself in a position with God. You just have to get in position. You have to get in position. The eagle will flap 2 or 3 times, lock its wings, and the wind catches it and does all of the work, and it's just doing a 360, and every round goes higher and higher. So you're going around, but you are winding on a different level. God is prophesying to us. One of your faces is the face of an eagle. You are not designed to just go around the block and still be on the same level after you've been around this thing. You ought to learn some stuff to say, you know what, I done been around a block. Well, once you've been around the block, you know, it looks like you're going around doing the same things, but, you know, when you get the lessons that are along the way, you are up on a higher level, still going around. Other people that see you circling may not understand what's happening, but every round goes higher and higher. I'm not the same that I was 5 years ago. I am not the same that I was 10 years ago. You know, I was still here, word of faith, but I'm not the same man. I have grown in the last 10 years because I've been going around the same thing, doing the same thing. It's time to make the donuts. But listen, the donut maker, the baker, is growing up. The baker is maturing. The baker has greater vision and perspective this time. The baker, you have to understand that when you've gone around the block, you've had a flat tire after you've gone, and when that's not your first flat tire, then you don't let that stuff upset you after a while. You get to a point and you realize that's just the way people are. Some folks are just going to talk, and you just let them talk, because this is not about me. And I want you to understand something about an eagle. Eagles do not travel in flocks. You won't find them in a pack. Listen, when you travel with the crowd, you get no further than the crowd. Whenever you find people following the crowd, about the only thing that you find is where the exit is. You'll find your way out of something whenever you go tracking behind the crowd. Just always, they will lead you to an exit. You're getting ready to be led out of something whenever you're following the crowd. Just trust me. And so you have to become just like an eagle. Eagles don't have this insecurity issue. They are all right to be by themselves. You might find them one or two. It is their nature. It's the way that they're built. You've got to have the face of an eagle, where you don't need somebody affirming you all the time and stroking your ego, and just a whole lot of folks around you all the time got to be in party mode. Listen, you don't really accomplish anything when you got a whole lot of folks around you. You got to go and be determined. I'm going if I've got to go all by myself. You got to be willing to do things that nobody else is doing. You got to be willing to read stuff that nobody else has any interest in. You got to be able to be willing to practice harder when everybody else is out playing. You got to be like an eagle that is okay with being alone, because they realize that that's where a certain amount of our development comes from, is just being alone. Learning how to set your wings, get set in the right column of warm air, and you'll do your 360s, and you are rising. Every time that you turn, you are rising. You are just rising. You don't have to be flapping like a sparrow. Sparrows are low flying birds. You'll never find a sparrow flying at 10,000 feet above sea level, because they are low flying birds. But you see, eagles can go transatlantic. And it's because they're not wearing themselves out flapping all the time. You got to learn how to stop flapping if you really want to go the distance. This thing is not by the flesh of you're always trying to, you know, honey, I manipulated my way into this relationship, and now, honey, I tricked him, and I'm wearing myself out trying to keep it up. Whatever you start in the flesh, you're going to have to maintain in the flesh. Find your warm column of prayer and set your wings, and just turn and rise, and you'll rise and you'll rise. You're coming to a different level. And so you're designed to be at a different level of life. You're not designed to stay at the same place. You got to be able to set your wings and say, I'm okay if I'm all by myself. And I'm going to wait on the Lord. I'm going to just set my wings, and I'm going to wait. And you don't even realize that something is happening while your wings are set, that God is just circling you. He's got something beneath your wings that you cannot even see, that is taking you a place that you cannot imagine. And the place that he takes you is giving you a perspective that you could not have at a lower altitude. It is so amazing that how God will, out of everything else, he says that they shall mount up with wings as an eagle. They have powerful wings. Their wings can be 8 feet across. Powerful wings, incredible wings for a small bird, but it takes them places. And so their most outstanding features are their wings, which give them mobility, and their vision. Those are the two most powerful things that we need as individuals. You need a vision to see where you're going, to see what you're going after, and then you need wings, a mode of transportation to be able to get you there. You can see it, and then you can be it. And when you talk about these wings, these wings that you have, that you set, happen to be faith and works. If you only have one, you only flap around in circles. But when you flap both and set both, synchronize faith and works. Faith and works, not faith or works, faith and works. When you work both of them together, you ever find a bird with a broken wing? You can't fly. You got two wings, but if one is broken, you can't fly. And so they get both, faith and works. Couple them together, set them together. And there's something about the aerodynamics of how their wings are made. They're waterproof. They can fly through the rain. They can get up at altitudes and go distances that other folks cannot go. But they've got to be able to see something. They can be a mile up in the air and they can see a fish down and swoop down and snatch that fish out before that fish can even figure out what happened to them. They have the vision, and then they have the means of transportation to get there. They can see it, and then they've got the mode of transportation to be able to get them there. You know, Bishop Wright of the Evangelical United Brethren Church, he was a man who didn't believe that man could fly, nor that man should fly. In fact, while he was preaching a revival out in the Midwestern states, made the statement that if God had meant for man to fly, he would have given him wings. While he was preaching that out in the Midwest, his two sons, Wilbur and Orville, were back home in North Carolina developing their first successful plane. I mean, had that happened to me, I would have changed my name from Bishop Wright to Bishop Wrong. I mean, isn't it amazing to see how the Lord used a bishop's two sons to invent a flying mechanism to show man how he could fly? Isn't that amazing? And Bishop Wright's son, the Wright brothers, they were born almost exclusively to teach man how to fly. In fact, because aviation was their only passion, the Wright brothers both died as bachelors. A woman for what? When you can fly? And both of them died as bachelors because flying was their passion. And they didn't have anybody nagging them about when they were coming home, that the food was getting cold, when you gonna get into bed. They were out flying. They were footloose and fancy free. But you can mount up with wings like an eagle, and you can do some incredible thing. I want you to know that eagles have a tendency to go a different route than others. Rousseau wrote these words. He said, "Take the course opposite to custom, and you will almost always do well." Take the course opposite to custom, and you will almost always do well. Here's the admonition here. Run your own race. Run your own race set by God. Run your own race set by God. Now, when I say run your own race, I don't just mean do what you want to do. Do what God has put you in the earth to do. Your own destiny is not something that you decide. Your destiny is something that you discover. you discover what God has already decided for you. And when you examine the lives of some of the most effective people in the world, you will see that those individuals did not care what other people thought about them. They had no concern about what other people thought about them. They were born with a mission in their heart and in their mind, and they were focused on their mission. The most effective people in the world had no consideration for what other people thought. You know why? Because if you're going to be a dreamer to make something happen, and if you share your vision with them, they will shoot it down because they can't see it. And this is why if you're going to be an eagle, you can't run with a pack, a flock. You're going to be almost by yourself. You might find somebody else who's also an eagle, and you glean some things from them, and you become inspired by them. If you can see one of them fly, and you realize you got the same equipment, I would be looking for a ledge to jump off of and set my wings and watch something happen. I mean, learn to do things that are right for you. You learn to do some things that are just right for you. And learn to be an eagle in those different dimensions of your own life. Learn to be an eagle, that I'm going to rise above the stuff that's trying to keep me down. You were built to rise. You remember the word of the Spirit, it says, come up hither. God would just oftentimes say to them, come up hither. Rise to a higher level. You can live on a higher level than where you are, but you can't live on the higher level until you start thinking on the higher level. And you can't think on the higher level until you start seeing on the higher level. That's one of the reasons why you have to wait on the Lord. Listen, it takes patience. It takes patience. You will frustrate yourself out of your wits if you see something that you are not ready to be. It takes time to develop into that thing. If it is worth having, you have to wait on it. You must wait on it. It has to mature like a good cheese, a good wine. It has to mature. There are certain things that you have to mature into. And it is true with the eagle. He can see some things, but you can't have it immediately. You have to mature into it. They that wait upon the Lord, they shall renew their strength. Right when you thought that you were just about to give out.
Thank you for watching Power for Living.